Good afternoon, listeners, friends and colleagues. Here we are again, another episode, and today it's a fantastic privilege. Not only have I got somebody who's worked with me in the industry, but was a friend before so, and still a friend now, and we've known each other for probably around 40 years, I think.
Yeah, at least.
Probably around 40 years. Also one of the funniest men I've ever worked with. So I'm not putting him under too much pressure to be performing now, but his name's Roy Gadsby, and he's currently the baggage manager of BIA, which is Bahrain International Airport. And Roy, it's an absolute pleasure. Really good.
Thanks. It's really nice to see you again. I didn't think I'd be seeing you under these circumstances.
Yeah.
But it's fantastic. We haven't seen each other for a couple of years now, so it's really cool.
Yeah, no, it's terrible. Right, first question I ask everybody is, why did you come on the podcast? Why did you agree to come on?
Well, first thing I've mentioned it already is that I haven't seen you for such a long time. I'm over here at the moment with a new team that I've built and building and training in Bahrain. We opened a new airport on October the 30th. So we're over here at the moment to see a huge airport at Heathrow and see how well it works and see if we can take some learning and best practices back to Bahrain for when we open. Lots of my guys haven't got aviation background, certainly not in the baggage arena, but they're learning. They need to learn quick, so we thought we'd bring them over here to see
nice one.
Where it's done.
So it fits in. Right, so to kick it off, how did you get into the industry? Because obviously we're both from similar backgrounds and three brothers each, and
yeah.
So how did you get in? How did you get into the industry?
Well, I worked in Fleet Street on the newspapers. I worked for the London Evening News, and we were made redundant off of that. And I remember I got £3,000 redundancy, and I felt like I'd won the pools. Both of my friends who got made redundant with me were very sensible, and went out and put deposits down on flats and got on a property ladder. I bought a Mark III Cortina. And
I remember it.
Yeah, and I went to Cortina. I went to America. Yeah, it was a strange old situation. They got on a property ladder, and there is a term but I wasted mine when I look back on it, my redundancy.
Maybe not, Roy. I doubt if they've got the same memories.
Exactly.
But it's incredible that everybody just seems to fall into the industry, and no real intent.
No, well, I finished working on the newspapers. I went to work for SOGAT 82. So I was working night shifts on different newspapers each night. So I'd work on the Daily Mail, the Daily Mirror, the Daily Telegraph on an evening, and it was really good. I was earning a lot of money, as you well know. And I used to work 4 or 5 weeks, and then you and I go to America for a couple of weeks. But that came to an end when they started to move all the newspaper industry over to Wapping. And then that's when there were the strikes and God knows what else. So SOGAT, I'm not saying SOGAT was organising this, but the ne'er-do-wells within the industry were saying, right, we've got to go over there and take to Wapping and take some marbles and throw them under the police horses' feet and take some darts and throw them at the police. And I said, no, I'm not getting involved with that. So I said, that's it. That was the end of my newspaper industry. I went to work for my eldest brother, Kevin, who you know, and in the building trade. And that was tough work. I was carrying the hod for about 6 months, and I applied for a job in British Airways. And the rest is history, as I say. I had 25 fantastic years working for British Airways. The opportunities they gave then, and I believe they still do it now, were amazing. And I took every opportunity, every bit of training that they offered me, and gradually climbed the ladders up to a senior manager role. So, British Airways. It
is good, isn't it, to give credit to some of the organisations. And I say we're very similar, not just with the brothers and Irish mothers and the career and everything, but you were 25, 26 years with British Airways.
Yeah, 25,
I did 28 with Lufthansa. But they were great companies, weren't they? They trained you, gave you opportunities to go on international travel. You could go and transfer if you were so inclined.
Yeah, it was wonderful. There were so many opportunities. They gave me, and I know with the industry now it's tough. It's tough in any industry, but it's tough in the aviation industry. But then you could get sponsored to do City and Guilds course. Yep. I used to have a day out each week paid to go to Red Hill College to gain my basics of aviation course. So my City and Guilds, that was something I had to my CV. So, and if BA was wonderful in as much as they'd say, they'd recognise, this guy wants to get on, he wants to move on, and they give you an opportunity. Yeah. So,
but don't you think that's still something? And one of the things that we're trying to do with the podcast is get to know people behind the positions. So anybody that's listening, they can listen to the types of characters, the types of principles, the morals, ethics, and also what people want to do as well, passing the baton on. So to get youngsters to come in and listen, it's important to have a little bit of history, but the same opportunities are there still. And this industry is a great industry, and people say it's not sexy enough. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to give people a little insight that they might not know, and then hopefully, there'll be a lot more people coming into the business.
I can't knock it. I wouldn't be as foolish as to say there haven't been any bad times in my career in aviation. Yeah, there have. Of course there have. But my family and my children, my wife, we've travelled to four corners of the earth, and we've had a wonderful time. I've represented BA playing football all over the world. Look, you and I went when British Caledonian, we went to Yugoslavia, didn't we? Played football in Yugoslavia.
That was incredible.
In Red Star Belgrade's stadium.
Yeah, and we had to do the salute and the anthems and everything.
Yeah, and the only people that were watching the game were the soldiers who were doing their national service. So,
but that was good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Do you know something? I remember that they took us everywhere, didn't they? Where people died.
Yeah. They
to the Second World War crash that could have ended the war earlier.
So Tito's tomb.
And I remember we had to walk up all those stairs non-stop. And I can remember the soldiers were looking at us. We had to cover up, and it had to be so serious. And as we got to the top, I'm sure it was you. You said, "No wonder he died if you had to walk up here every night." But that was incredible, wasn't it?
Yeah, we had a wonderful time. And
do you remember Desi Alderson when we were getting the tour of the stadium? And the tour guide said, "This is the most fantastic stadium, and everybody's so proud to be here." And Des said, "Does the Czechoslovakian national team play here?" And everybody went quiet. And the poor old tour guide, he said, "No. This is Yugoslavia."
Good old Des.
Yeah, good old Des and his geography. That's a good one.
But those are the opportunities working in aviation and gave you, and still give you to a certain extent. But I love it, and I've moved on. One of the hardest decisions I had to make was to leave British Airways.
Yeah.
But I've never looked back, and I don't regret a minute of my time at BA. And then I went to work for Babcock Aviation. So it was the other side of the coin, really. So I was dealing with the person who's now took my old position. So that was strange at first, because I realised how demanding I had been to the supplier. Now I'm the supplier, so people were getting their own back.
But it's good to see.
You see it from all sides, and that was great. I had a couple of years there, and then the fateful party where we met again.
Yeah.
We hadn't seen her for about 5 years then. So you came into my sister-in-law's 50th, I think it was, and I said, what are you up to? And you said, you're in Abu Dhabi. And I jokingly said, got any jobs? And you said, I'm building a team, send me a CV. And again, the rest is history. I had an interview within a week, and I was in Abu Dhabi within 6 weeks. And so I don't really think I had a time to talk about it, to think about it, really. I think if I had a lot more time to think about it, I may not have done it. But I'm so glad that I did.
Yeah.
That opened more doors for me. So
yeah, but it's great. And that's the thing. I think people... everybody expects things too quickly these days, and social media puts people under pressure. But if you're given an opportunity, even if it is leaving an organisation that you've been there for a long time, the world is so small, you don't have a great deal of time on it. So whatever opportunities, you should always take and look at it positively. And then, like you said, one door closes and many more open.
Well, I'll give you an example of that. I was in I was customer service manager in Terminal 1 many years ago, and British Airways, as they do and still do, go through restructuring. You know, I understand it. That's what happens. That's business. And I'd been successful in about 4 of the 5 times that I'd been through it. And on the 5th time, there were 5 customer service managers. They only need 4, and I didn't get the position. So held my hands up. Fair enough. Move on. And I got a job still within British Airways, but it moved me in a different direction. I was a bit sad at the time, and you feel, you feel you've let yourself down and stuff like that. But it moved me into facilities and a maintenance role. So I was looking after British Airways infrastructure, which opened a lot more doors for me. And I was dealing with more suppliers in the aviation industry, and I love it. And I never looked back from there. So, every cloud,
exactly.
There are opportunities, and sometimes you don't know it's an opportunity until it happens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why I think, like I say, we've been talking to lots of senior managers and on conferences and everything, and people are saying that there's such a shortage of real good talent, and how do we attract them and make the industry appeal to them? But once they come in, they've got to also be very positive and take whatever opportunity. Like you said, you allowed yourself to go on every training course. Me too. If somebody said they were doing horse riding training, I would have done it just to get the experience. I think it's so important never to say no.
Yeah, yeah, and and you need someone to give you a break. Sometimes you need someone to give you a break, and I've remembered that throughout my career when I've been interviewing. I've seen people who have been on the borderline in terms of assessments and stuff like that. But I've looked at it and I thought, I like to think I'm a particularly good or reasonably good judge of character. Yep. And you see something in someone, you say, right, okay, he might not be able to deliver assessment-wise, but this guy or this girl has got something. And you have to take a chance sometimes. And invariably, it's very, very rare it hasn't paid dividends. So I had a couple of those in my career. Lady named Anne Kelleher. I don't know if you know. She gave me an opportunity, which I really appreciated at the time, and I went on from there to different areas. So I recognise that you should be doing that. You should be recognising when someone's got potential, not just book smart, not just assessment smart, but got potential. Team fit, I'm keen on. How would they fit into our team? What do they bring to it? So I'm keen on that.
No, I agree, and I think like both of us playing against each other, with each other, and across different sports, you can sometimes put a really good team together, and they'll beat a great team because of the way they're put together and the motivation and the spirit. And I think that's important. It's all down to attitude.
And is there a better example of that team spirit than when we played American football? Because we weren't the biggest, we weren't the fastest, we weren't the strongest, but what Kevin and Chris Williams did in terms of tactics and bringing us all together and telling us we could run through walls and knock down anybody. And that's what happened. We went on to do stuff. So it's about having good leaders, good mentors, and them encouraging you and saying, you can do it, you can do it. And you remember that half-time speech that Kevin gave at that game? I don't know, we were playing Bournemouth or something. It makes me shiver now to think about it.
The hairs on the back of your neck. And we'd have gone out and ran over old women and everybody.
Anybody was in the way, he was getting it that day.
But he was good at that. But it was that I must say, that's one of the periods of my life I wish I could go back to and appreciate how good it was. The times we had and the travel and down in Cornwall. Going to Belgium. All those games. It's incredible. And
Jersey we went, didn't we?
The only trouble was we were probably the most successful semi-final team. We just needed to get one of those bowls, one of them finals.
Do you remember we went to Jersey and
Jersey.
We went into that nightclub and the two biggest doormen we've ever seen were outside, weren't they? They said, "What are you boys doing there?" And said, "We've got America." We said, "Oh, we're playing tomorrow." So next night we went in there. We said, "Where's the big guys?" He said, "They're off sick." They got hurt playing American football.
No, it was fantastic.
Yeah,
I'll never forget that. And that's all. The fact that we're sitting here now today, talk about coincidence, in Donata's head office, and Donata came from plane handling.
Oh right, yeah.
So Gary, and all the boys here, they remember George and Gwyn, God bless him.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you know, he died just recently.
Oh no, I didn't know.
Yeah, terrible, lovely character.
The plane handling van we had.
Yeah, and we were the sponsors. And then I love the story when you and me went to. They said, "Do you want to come and do the game at Wembley?"
Yeah, yeah.
And I think it was who were we playing? It was the Denver Broncos, wasn't it?
I think so. Well, and Miami, because I've still got
Miami Dolphins.
I've still got my Dan Marino's undershorts.
But that was what at the time. So just for people who are listening, if you can just picture this, the two of us, and we've turned up and we got to Wembley early, and we got there too early. So Gwyn said to us, "Right, go and fill your time for a couple of hours." We went into the Irish club on the roundabout.
Yeah.
So we were suitably lubricated, and then we turned back, and then we got in, and we couldn't believe all these American footballers coming in, weren't it? We were right in the changing rooms with them, and then they were going out and warming up and everything. And I said to you, I said, "Come on." I said, "How many times do we get the chance to be out on the haloed Wembley turf?" Yeah. And as we were walking out, there was a big police cordon. Do you remember?
Yeah, yeah.
And I said, "Just keep walking." I just nudged this copper on the side of the shoulder. I said, excuse me, officer." I said, "We're with the game, we need to go out." And he looked at us, and we still had our Heathrow Jets jackets on.
Yeah.
And they let us both go through. Do you remember we were walking out onto the pitch?
Oh, I flagged it.
Hey?
80,000 people in there.
And we walked out onto the centre circle of Wembley, looking at everyone and getting a lot of abuse as we were walking out.
Because they knew our team and they were giving us stick. 80,000 people, and we walked onto the central circle, started throwing the ball to each other.
Wasn't it?
That is madness, isn't it, when you think back?
It was fantastic. And then that fella came up to me. Do you remember?
Yeah, yeah. That was another game, because that was Tom Landry.
Oh, Tom Landry.
Tom Landry, who was I think he was the head coach at the time of the Dallas Cowboys when we did that game as well. And he's like a legend. That's like, Alex Ferguson. Alex Ferguson. So we're standing on the sideline, you and I, again, in our Heathrow Jets shirts, and Tom Landry said to you, "Who are you guys?" And you said to him, "Well, who are you?" And he said, and then you said to him, "Well, we're the guys who are organising all the kit." And he went, "Oh, okay, carry on."
And we were on the sideline for ages. It was brilliant. Yeah. That was what a great memory that was.
What about the when we drove up there? I think it was for that game, and the two teams that were playing, I can't remember they were at the time, were leaving from Gatwick.
Yes,
that night.
Yes. And we were stuck in the car park.
Yeah, we were stuck in the car park with them in my beige Escort. So we left. We were in the convoy. We left, and they were the police outriders and a convoy of 4 coaches driving along the M25 just to where we are, actually.
Yeah.
And we got to the M25, and they had police outriders, and we indicated off.
The Heston services.
And the cops were going, where are they going? So, happy days.
Oh, that was superb. Such good. I'm sorry about for anybody listening that we were enjoying ourselves, but I haven't seen him for ages, and we got such great memories. But coming back to the business and the opportunities that we had, I remember another evening we were playing for Feltham Football Club, and we played in a cup game and we won, and then we weren't playing on the Saturday. And I remember being in a pub in Bedfont. I can't remember the name of the pub now. I remember being in there, and we're all sitting there, and there was people like Gary Brodie and Bobby Dawson and people like that, and we're in there. And I remember Russell Williams, he says, "Guys, we've got no game on Saturday, what are we going to do?" And I remember saying, "Let's go to Miami." And he straight away, he didn't even think, he said, "Yeah, let's go to Miami." And I remember saying to you at the bar, and they were all going, "What are you talking about? Miami this, Miami that." And people didn't realise that we were able to just do that because of the concessions and the opportunities. Yeah. And we ended up meeting in a bar in Collins Avenue in Miami.
Yeah, yeah, it's a freaky situation. Do you remember that time I went out with Lee to America?
Oh, yes, St. Petersburg.
Yeah, and you were, I don't know which route you had to fly to get there.
We went via New York.
Yes, and so you were with Neil, weren't you? Neil
New York or Chicago. I think it was Chicago, and we got snowed in.
Yeah, so, but Chris and I went to Miami, and Lee and I went to Miami, and we hired a car, an open top car. So he's got this. He wanted one, so we got a Mustang open top. We're driving. This is before any phones or WhatsApp or any of that nonsense. And this is about 4 a.m. We may have had a drink, and we're driving back. There's hardly any cars on the road, so we stopped at a set of lights on the way back to our hotel, and a car skidded behind us, hit us in the back, and I thought we were going to be injured, but we weren't. And because we may or may not have had a drink, we just said, right, let's pull into this coffee shop here.
So House of Pancakes.
That was it. So we pulled straight into the House of Pancakes, and we're panicking. I said, right, let's have a cup of coffee, and then we decide what to do. Because this car, they must have been drinking as well, so because they shot off. So we sat down in the coffee shop, and we're shaking a little bit because of like the shock of the accident. 4 o'clock in the morning, and we look in the next booth, and you're sitting in there with my brother.
Yeah,
that is madness.
Yeah. And we heard the skid, and we actually said, "Oh, someone's had a bad one." And then all of a sudden we see you two come running in. That's funny. Yeah. Great memories, Roy.
Happy days.
And then we ended up working in the Middle East, which was a great experience. And
I don't regret, and I've had this conversation many times with my wife Kerry, and I'm so glad that you came to that party that night, because my life took another direction in aviation. And something I wouldn't change for the world now, looking back. I've been 8 years in the Middle East now. And it was fantastic. I enjoyed myself there. As you know, I went over to Qatar. You were over there as well. We opened the new airport over there. Met some good people. One of the senior vice presidents over there was Clive.
I was with him last week.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
He's a massive amount of admiration for Clive. I think he's a super boss. Really.
Clive Suave
Hopkins, yeah.
Yeah, he's a good man. He's very good, very loyal, very straight up.
Yeah, oh yeah. You can,
good disciplinarian.
Yeah, you can tell he's ex-military, can't you? He's top man. I've got such a lot of time for him.
So Clive, when you're listening to this, mate, you got 2 good strong votes.
And did 5 years there.
He's with Avia partner now in Brussels.
Yeah, he's a CEO, isn't he?
Yeah.
So did 5 years there, thoroughly enjoyed it, built up such a fantastic team. Guys that I knew I could absolutely trust with anything. You know, and I got to a point where, because they trusted me, I certainly trusted them, and they do anything for me. And they even sort of second guess me. They know exactly what I would have done in the situations, and they used to say to me, "It's all about empowerment." No, they never had anybody, and I learned a lot of this from you. I learned a lot of this from Clive, some really good managers that I had in British Airways. Give people an opportunity.
Yeah,
let them make decisions. They used to say to me, "We've never had anybody who lets us make a decision
and trust them."
Yeah, and we were always told what to do. No one lets us make a decision, and that changed it. So I still speak to a lot of the people from Qatar. To this day, I was speaking to one of them today. Ruben Fernandez, what a top man. And my right and left hand man were Samir Kuti and Ruben Fernandez.
Sammy, yeah.
Top men.
But doesn't it make you proud when you still keep in touch with people that you gave an opportunity to?
Oh, yeah.
Not that they should always say, "Oh, thank you," or whatever, but it's just so lovely to see people given an opportunity and do so well for themselves.
Oh, it's superb. And I don't want to sound corny, but when you give someone an opportunity and they do well, you feel like an emotional attachment to them. You think, I want you to do well. You're a good person, and I've given you the opportunity, and you've done it, and you've proved to yourself you can do it, and you made yourself proud. You made me proud, and one of the good things that it was like a double-edged sword, really, because all my guys, because they got so good, they were being poached by other departments. And if they went for an interview, they did well because I'd always mock interview with them and do things like that, to support them. So you build up good teams, but when they become good, they could go somewhere else. But if they're still in the same organisation, everyone's a winner.
Exactly. Yeah. And even not Roy, because at the end of the day, I remember saying that a few times to the people that were part of a team that was growing is, as soon as we know we're good, that's the last day.
Yeah.
Because from there on, somebody wants to do something different, somebody gets poached. So you have to enjoy that journey.
Yeah.
And if you don't enjoy it, you've missed out on something special.
Yeah, and don't get bent out of shape if people move on and go to other organisations. That's life.
Yeah, wish them well, and then you never know, they might come back or they'll always say something good.
And as you and I will know, the aviation industry, although it's worldwide, it is a small world, because you see people everywhere. I'm sitting in Bahrain, and I know people that I worked with, 10, 20 years ago. Yeah. So, and Qatar, everywhere I go, and Abu Dhabi, you just meet people that you used to work with. Or it does. So.
But that's also good, isn't it? It's
it's wonderful. Networking is wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah,
Just the aviation industry, although it's worldwide, the people in it, it's a small world.
Yeah. So getting youngsters in and making it seem attractive, what would you say to people who are listening now about why they should come into this business?
Why should you come into aviation? I find it incredibly exciting. I've been back to Terminal 5 after many years, and back of house. I've been through it many times, but I've been back of house, and I loved it. I was like a kid today. I know Terminal 5 when it first opened. I still have the scars to bear of that first few months. But even in those problems, there was some good, because the recovery of that situation brought so many people together. And then you did a bit more networking, and it was wonderful. So my thing to youngsters that come into aviation is that it's an incredibly exciting, dynamic industry to be in. And I would say that if you come in it, you don't stay in one place. You move around, do cargo, do catering, do passenger group, do baggage, see it all, and then the world is your oyster. Yeah. You can go anywhere. You can go anywhere with a fantastic overview of aviation.
Yeah. What do you think about now these videos that are going viral, where you see somebody filming out of the window, and you see somebody just throwing the bags on, and the e-commerce boxes falling off the belt?
Yeah, it's disappointing. It doesn't give a true reflection of the industry. It's a small population that does that. Every now you see a lot of the bad stuff. Every now and again you see the really good stuff. There was a wonderful viral video of a guy in South Africa who was on an arrivals belt. He worked there, and he was lining up everybody's bags, and he was putting the labels out in the straight. They're the extremes, So, if you see people throwing bags, that's outrageous. Yeah. I say to my guys, you treat every bag like it was your own, and you imagine that certainly in the Middle East. Lots of guys from Indian subcontinent, so they go backwards and forwards, and I say to them, right, imagine that's your bag, and you've got all your Christmas presents in with your family you're going back for. Would you be happy for someone to see someone throwing it? No, I wouldn't, boss. Then you don't do it. Yeah. So, and that's it. That's how we do it. We just talk, and we say to them, this is how you look after people.
And tell them why.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that, because I've been asking people, how do you relate to your team? Not about what they should do or when or where, but the why. And exactly what you said, Stuart Angus from Donata, I said to him, what makes it different? And he said, everybody knows that if that bag goes missing or gets damaged, it could be Christmas gifts, it could be something special, it could be an outfit that you've got to wear to a special do. He said it's got to be personal, and if it's personal, then people care.
Yeah. That's the key word, care. You've got to make people care.
Yeah.
And explain to them how important their role. They're a small cog in a big wheel. But to me, I say to them, you're as important as a pilot.
Yeah.
You're as important as a captain.
Yeah.
We're all in this one thing, and everybody's got to do their role. Yeah, the captain's got to fly it and take it off, but your role is to get those passengers' bag on there safely and securely.
Yep.
And make sure the aircraft leaves on time.
Yeah.
Which reminds me of a terminal when we were in Terminal 3 many years ago, and we used to get the new kids at it. We Terminal 3 used to handle the British Airways handled the Nigerian Airways, I think it was at the time, and we had a new guy, and it was about -10 to departure, so we sent him upstairs up these jetty stairs. We said, "Can you go into the seat, speak to the captain, Mask? Can he leave 5 minutes early tonight?" So up he goes, and he asks the captain, and then the captain comes out, pokes his head, and just shakes his head and looks at us.
As if to say, what's going on?
Yeah.
Hey, listen, you've got to tell the story about Ferdy when he used to do the interviews at British Airways. And that's another guy. I'm going to name his name because if he does get to hear this, he'll laugh himself. Yeah. His name was Ferdy Rosario.
Yeah, Ferdy was a bit of a
Actually,
character.
sorry, I've got to tell you, he featured a couple of months ago on a top police documentary.
Did he?
Yeah, and he was going into the house arresting, and he was very professional.
Is he still in
No,
there?
I think he's just retired now.
Oh, right, cool. Oh, Ferdy, he's a character. He when we had the new starters, and he used to interview them for a job share in New York, and he used to bring them in. Of course, there were no jobs in New York, but he used to bring them in and interview them. We had a little clipboard. And he said, Dave Johnson said, yeah, how do you feel about working in New York for, 2 weeks, and then the guy from New York would come and work here for 2 weeks? He said, yeah, I wouldn't mind that. He said, well, how fit are you, to work? It's tough. Oh, yeah, I'm really fit. He said, so he said, okay, so he said, right, can you do 50 press-ups? Yeah, easy. So you'd have them doing 50 press-ups. And the rest of the people will be sitting in the restroom, and then he said, well, how fit are you? He said, can you run? He said, oh yeah, no problem. So they think they're getting this job in New York. So we'd be sitting in the restroom, and at that time we had grey uniforms, and we see this flash of grey go past the restroom window, and someone say, what's that? They say, oh, Ferdy's interviewing again. He'd have these kids running from one end of Terminal 4 to the other in under 3 minutes. Yeah. And so they come in and their sweat would be pouring off them. And they say, that's fantastic, thank you, you've passed, we'll let you know how you get on.
No, he was a character, he was brilliant, yeah.
Those were the days we had the Phantom raspberry blower of Terminal 4. They had all bays phones, so a message used to go out. If you had an important message, they'd say, well, you'd have to press this secret number, and then it will go out to every bay. So every check-in point would have this. So you'd have, because I ended up in check-in, working in check-in as my route out of working as a baggage handler, which I thoroughly enjoyed, by the way. And I was working in check-in. And one of the guys had got hold of the secret phone number, and every now and again, and he wouldn't do it a lot. He's talented guy, and this is really childish, but made me laugh every time. He pressed a number, and you get this beep, calling all bays. How silly is that? I could not stop it. And then, but all the passengers hear all that, so they had the biggest inquiry to find out who the Phantom raspberry blower of Terminal 4 was.
Like something from the Two Ronnies.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's brilliant. But you're talking about baggage handlers and something. Same with the guys who do the offloading and the loading of the aircraft. Some of the extreme conditions they have to work in. I mean, I've got so much respect for them, and like how hot it was in the Middle East, but also. Likewise in Chicago and some of the other places I've been in, when they're in the bellies, loading, getting the baggage, they deserve much more. And I don't know what to do as far praise them, reward them, whatever, but they really, really do a good job.
Yeah, I think the industry needs to recognise this fact. I think they do to a certain extent, but there must be ways the industry and particular companies can recognise them. I don't know whether it's monetary or tickets or something like that, but
or just looking after them, Roy, with their backs. And stuff,
the right equipment, the the right clothing, you know, some whether it's hot or cold or difficult conditions. You have to appreciate that. You have to appreciate how hard they work.
I don't know if you've seen. Have you seen the Swissport assisted lift suit that they put on?
No, I haven't seen that.
It's fantastic. It helps them keep the back, you know, and it helps them with the leverage of lifting. It's almost like a robotic. It's incredible. Yeah. But things like that shows also that the company cares about the guys with their backs in later life and stuff. You know, I think.
Yeah, well, funny enough, I've been in Terminal 5 today to look at the baggage system that we put in so many years ago, and they've improved it now by having these Vaculux. Have you seen those? Where they've got a great big hoover, a suction machine, so you can it picks up the bag and you help it, and you can just drop it down. It's a wonderful invention, but we had some prototypes of that many years ago in Terminal 4, and there was a few tricksters there, some guys, and it was just a big hook, and you could use it to hook it onto the baggage handle. It failed dismally because the handles weren't strong enough. It was a good principle, but the handles weren't strong enough to take it. So
the weights, to
take the weight. So the handle invariably would break. So we had it on a prototype to do, but it was a big, strong hook, and it could take quite a weight. And I got a call as a supervisor. I said, "Roy, can you go around to the outer gauge baggage area?" And I went round there, and there was a guy hanging up by his belt. They'd hooked him a bit on his belt, and he couldn't get off. So there's some weird and wonderful things that the guys used to get up to.
I know for anybody listening now, and please don't think that we're mocking safety and security and all that.
No.
And we're not. But the thing that when you've been in the business long enough, you've got to have good memories and look back on them. And some of the characters and things that happen, it brings people together. And I thought that's things like that, and so many others are incredible. I've got to tell you one story. Do you remember the time we were in Abu Dhabi and we used to go to that quiz night?
Yeah.
And there was a group of us, a lot from Feltham, and Russell was there as well. And we entered into this quiz, and they had all different types of themes, and you could play a joker. And we were quite noisy in there, and people knew that we were there. And all of a sudden, we put a joker in, and everybody looked at us in a strange way. And then we won the joker. We got maximum points, and they thought we were cheating because our subject was Walt Disney films. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Because our kids.
Yeah, and Russell and Alex were able to not only name every film but sing every song and know every lyric.
Yeah, we just sat back, didn't we?
I was so pleased, but also a little bit uncomfortable and embarrassed the way they looked at us. And it was incredible, wasn't it? Yeah, winning Walt Disney films. Now, again, coming back, and you mentioned a colleague from British Airways, people who mentored you. You know, how important is it that people actually do that and put the time into it? And I know you do it yourself. Because I think when youngsters come into a business now, and sometimes it doesn't appear to be so interesting in the early stages, they have to knuckle down and they have to be given something to motivate them or to give them that determination to carry on. How important do you think that is?
Oh, I think it's vital. It's I had a lady boss, Annie Barber, her name, little pocket rocket.
Is she in e-commerce? Is she?
No, she's...
not Alibaba.
No, not Alibaba. No, that's my kids used to say, "You're still working for Alibaba, Dad." But she was a little pocket rocket. She's a Scottish lady, but really, really good man manager and super mentor, and it could make you feel like you could do anything. But I was very naive in those days, and certainly dealing with trade unions. And let it be said, I was a trade union member till the time I left British Airways for 25 years. I'm a firm believer in them when they work for the good of the people and the company. But we used to have meetings, and I'd get really frustrated because things weren't going our way, and I was learning, and she was mentoring me. So she had to pull me to one side and say once that, "Roy, you know, you visibly look angry in there. So when that starts to happen," she said, "I'll scratch my head with my pen." So for the first few months, of these meetings we were having, she was continually scratching her head. They must have thought there was something wrong with her gallbladder. Yeah,
with a scar.
Yeah, she had a groove in her head. But they're the type of things that I needed. So then I learned how to mellow and understand and work with people, and that's part of your learning. So
it is,
and mentors are really important.
And like I say, we've got similar backgrounds. I've been accused of being a little bit direct and stuff, and only recently I was termed as a hooligan with a heart. But I know you as well. If you care about people and you've got a little bit of a sense of humour, you can be tough as long as it's fair.
Yeah.
And as long as it's in the best interests of people. And I think at the end of the day, people respect being treated fairly and openly and not having to worry about anything that goes on behind doors or backs or whatever. And I think that's also important, to be very transparent and consistent.
Yeah, I think if you build a team, which you've done and I've done on many occasions now, and you trust that team and that trust, and you have to show that trust and you have to have their backs. Yeah. You know, if something happens and say, okay, that was my man, he did something wrong, but I'm behind him. I said, and you know, I don't want him terminated or whatever the example might be, or disciplined.
You have to stick up for people.
Right, he did that. You know, the empowerment goes so far, and they may make a decision it was wrong, but that's the style that we were developing. He may have taken it a little far, so you know that's on me. So don't punish him. That's what we've got to do. We've got to tidy up and fine tune that process, and that's what we're doing. We're all learning. They're learning. So
plus, it's easy to evaluate in hindsight, but you don't know what pressure they were under at the time.
Yeah, at the time. Yeah.
And it's all learning. It's all about that. Teamwork. Now, just one more discussion now on attitude. Okay, and making a first impression. If people were to contact you, okay, and say, what characteristics should I show, or how should I first present myself when I come in for an interview? What little tips would you give them? Because that first impression, you never get a second chance at.
Yeah, and I still use that one. I've stolen that off of you, and I still use it to this day. What would I say? It's a good question, because I'm about appearance. I think it shows a lot that if you've made the effort to look good, and the whole thing really, like if your CV's got a spelling mistake in it, hold on a minute, that says to me that you may not be as diligent in other roles. So there's a number of things, but first impression is: do you look smart? Do you shake hands? Have you got a happy face? Are you approachable? You know, because that's what life is about. We work. And we have to interact with people for long periods of time. So smile, have fun. We can have fun and do a good job.
Exactly, yeah. and the fun bit is so important as well. Yeah. So I appreciate that. Now also when people come in and they get training, okay. So I'm looking at so many youngsters now, and especially in the Middle East and some other regions, they're always in a rush. They haven't got time to concentrate. So I think the way we train also has to change now, because people want things so fast, so quickly. So as Generation X, Generation Y, it's like something from a sci-fi film. But I don't think they're capable of sitting in classrooms for long periods of time. So we've got to start doing things in smaller bites and smaller modules, and then visuals, and then testing them so it's always competency-based, but not sitting people in classrooms for as long as they've done.
I agree. My view on training is I think it's underestimated and undervalued. Training is absolutely vital to everything we do. It's not about ticking a box. You've attended. Yeah, there it is. Tick the box. He's done it. Like move on. You know a really good trainer when you've been on a course. You also know a really bad one when you've been on a course. Yeah. And I think a good trainer is worth their weight in gold. And then you have to know the audience and that you're dealing with. For example, if you're training staff in the Middle East, you have to tailor it for that. You can't take that training module and that you might use in America and take it to the Middle East. It wouldn't work because you've got to tailor it to culturally as well. Yeah. So I think training is undervalued and it needs to be overhauled and reviewed. But seeing a good trainer in action is a joy.
Yeah,
it's a pleasure to watch.
I agree. And they should also be encouraged and rewarded a lot more than
absolutely.
they are. And those that can take it practically into the workplace and show people why you're doing something, not just this is what you've got to do.
Yeah, and where does it all fit into the big picture? Don't train to tick a box.
Yeah, no,
Train people to train people to care.
Yeah,
and I think that's so valuable.
Yeah, and that's the word. And I keep saying the acronym: consider all responsibilities every time. If people focused on that, there'd be a lot more done, because every time you go into an operating theatre or you get on a plane, you want to make sure that the people up front or on top of you care. So it's so important. Music. I know you like your music. One of the questions we ask people is, if I was to ask Kerry, when you were out of the room, what's the one song that would make Roy get up? And I've also seen you dancing, makes me sick as well because you're so good. But what's the one song that would get you up out of the chair or wherever you were and go for it? What's your song?
It's a reasonably new one, but it's not, because I usually go for Motown or so like that. But it's Pharrell, Happy.
Happy?
I defy anybody not to feel good when that track is on. It's just wonderful. It really is. It's I can't stop dancing to it when I hear it. So gets a bit embarrassing now. The old dad dancing, the kids saying, "That's enough, Dad."
No, but you are, from what the last time I seen you, you still got it, Roy. It's not that much of a dad dance. I wish I could do it, but that's a good one. Now, what we're also doing, we're keeping track of that. I said about books, and I know how much you love to travel. What's your favourite vacation location? Well,
funnily enough, it's my not my latest one. I love Canada. I love British Columbia, but I've just come back from Zanzibar.
Oh yeah,
and that's stunning. It's got many contrasts because it's Africa, and it's very very poor. But then you've got your fantastic, 5, 6, 7-star hotels, and just outside of that, you've got poverty. So it's a strange contrast. But the most amazing beaches I have ever seen, the most amazing water I've ever seen, and we went out and swam with dolphins. That was wonderful when we first started it, but we came back because we started off, it was just our boat, and we were jumping over the side, and we didn't feel like we were disturbing them. But then it turned into about 20 boats that were out there, and I felt like we were herding them. So I said, "That's it, no, away we go." So we came back, we went back. So, but I'm pleased I did it, and I hope they stop herding them like that soon. But Zanzibar,
okay,
that was a wonderful place.
I'll put that one down. You just remind me about the herding now. Not that it's directly linked to herding, but do you remember the time we went to Australia for the security training with Armour Guard and the shooting with the police and
the shooting range? How did they let us do that? That was madness.
Two lads from Feltham and then give them a load of guns.
And wasn't it funny that we both had the guns. You were good long distance, and I was good short distance.
They said we weren't an ideal team.
Yeah. So I really felt uncomfortable that.
I remember you saying it.
Yeah, I felt uncomfortable to have a firearm in my hand, a loaded gun. It was really quite weird.
No, I loved it. I preferred having it in my hand than somebody else's hand.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
but yours misfired. Do you remember?
Yeah,
and he said he couldn't believe it. It was more than once.
Yeah, and he said that had never happened.
He said you'd be dead.
Yeah, how scary is that?
Yeah, and what about the videos we've seen with the guy who had the double barrel shotgun and it didn't go off? And he looked down the barrel, and as he pulled his head away, it blew the front of his
baseball cap off. Yeah.
Oh my God! But also seeing those the money counting.
Oh,
like they're almost like a factory, weren't they?
Yeah.
The people going in, not being allowed out.
Yeah, bundles and like stacks of money, like $50 million in just one.
Amazing though, wasn't it?
Yeah, stunning.
And the people going in there, and this is in the middle of nowhere, wasn't it? In some of the outbacks in Australia, and they get locked in, all the ladies have to have their lunches in there,
Yeah.
and all the guys equally. They got it was incredible, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Talking about ladies, and you've mentioned two, we're really identifying that the ladies in the industry are so good that we must get more in.
Oh, absolutely. I'm all for it.
And we're going to do a feature. We're going to do a feature on ladies in aviation, and we've got some great names. We've come across some really good ladies, and it's important now that we do the same and continue to do so.
Well, the lady I recruited or helped recruit for who now has taken over my position when I retired in Qatar, Ksenia. What's her surname? It will come to me in a second. It took a long time to recruit her, a long time. She was director of the airport in Serbia, and it took us a long time to get her over to Qatar. But when we did, it was fantastic. She hit the floor running. Really, really confident young lady, and we do need more in aviation.
Yep.
Certainly in the UK, in British Airways, they are really female centric, and if you're good enough, you'll get the role.
But I think that's the most important thing, because these days, anybody that's looking at a minority group or whatever, they say, you must. But if they meet the criteria and they deserve it, and there's a lot that does. But what we need to do is encourage more to come into the business, and a business that you wouldn't readily associate that would be a choice for a young lady starting off in her career, because they do so well. They think differently, they act differently, they do things so differently. Yeah,
they've got different and sometimes better powers of persuasion, and and they make you look at things from a different angle. And you always want that, don't you?
Of course you do.
You're never too old to start learning new ways of doing things. And I'm all for anybody telling me, if you did it that way, Roy, it might be better. Yeah, good. Fine. Yeah, we need more ladies in aviation.
Definitely. Roy, we're coming to the end of the period. You can't imagine how pleased I am to see you. And when you think where we grew up and our backgrounds, to think that we'd ever even be in a room like this in Donata, without looking and seeing, can we take the picture? Can we take all the goods out with us? It's an absolute pleasure, and I really enjoyed seeing you. And I said that I would think of a title for a book, okay, which we do for everybody. So yours, and for those who've seen you, I've grown up with you, so I know exactly. It's a likeness in more than just physical. I would title the book "Aviation's Mr. De Niro: A Man Who Cares."
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, I'll take that.
And that's how it'll appear.
Yeah.
And I've enjoyed being a friend of yours, being a colleague, working together, laughing more than I've laughed with many people, and seeing so much of the world. Absolute pleasure. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's really, honestly, Roy, it's really good. Now, the last thing is, if anybody wanted to get in touch with you, obviously not through your private mail, but how would they get in touch with you?
What's my email address? Get through LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. Just look up my name there, and you'll find my details.
Yeah. And it's amazing, mate. Here we are, both sitting with a pair of glasses on. Eh?
Yeah.
How time flies, doesn't it?
Yeah.
40 years, just like that.
Yeah, just gone. Well, when you and I, and we have done well. We've done well. Our mums would be amazed at how well we've done. But when you see some of the people that we used to associate with, and they say the positions we're in now, I think the title of the book might have been, "How did he get that job?" I can see that. But I remember your mum so well, and mine. The pair of them were larger than life characters. Yeah. Super.
Good old days. If only we could spend an evening with them.
Yeah. That'd be something.
All right. Thanks very much, Roy. Look forward to seeing you a little bit later on for a little refreshment, and keeping in touch a lot more.
Excellent. Thanks, mate.
Cheers, Roy.
Bye.